Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Down Syndrome Center podcast. As always, I'm your host, Dr. Kishore Velody. And as always, anytime I have any questions about policy and advocacy and what's going on, and I feel like the news gets to be overwhelming sometimes with what's going on and all the changes that are going on, I always know where to go. And I'm so glad to have our friends at the NDSC and the policy and advocacy team here to join us on this podcast. So, with us on the podcast are Heather Sachs, Jawanda Mast, and Adrian. Adrian, I don't even know if I'm going to be able to say your last name correctly. Perhaps, why don't we start with you, Adrian? You tell us who you are and make sure we know how to say your name and what you do.
So my name is Adrian Forsythe. Course lyrics. Difficult to say, but everybody everybody has a hard time with that. I am the Advocacy and Policy Assistant for the National Down Syndrome Congress. Part of my job is to participate in meetings, and I have contributed the perspectives of self-advocates and do a lot of presentations with them.
I love it. That's so helpful. One thing I've learned being on the board for the NDSC for so long is that self-advocate voice really helps us to remember what's important. So I'm glad you're doing that for the policy and advocacy team too, Adrian. Thanks. And then, Jawanda, how about you? Why don't you tell us who you are and what you do at the organization?
I'm Jawanda Mast, and I'm the Grassroots Advocacy Manager for NDSC. And what I do is I work with our advocates across the country teach them or help them, work with them to learn how to tell their stories to impact change. Everyone has a story, and our stories are powerful. And we know when we use our stories that we can make impact change as individuals and collectively. And Adrian is right about what he does, but he didn't say Adrian is a great presenter. He's a great actor too. Acting is one of his favorite things. And he didn't say that our loudest, most important voices are always our self-advocates.
Love it. Love it. And Jawanda, remind our listeners again, I know you've been on the podcast before, but what drew you to do this work all those years ago?
Well, 27 years ago, I had my daughter Rachel, who was born with Down syndrome. I had a prenatal diagnosis, so I knew ahead of time. And I've always liked to be involved in things, and I just kind of jumped in, and this is the direction we went. And I started learning pretty early about a lot of inequities for
Hmm.
individuals with disabilities. And in fact, I tell people that I heard these things and I was like, well, that can't be right. That sounds crazy. And then I found out that it's right. And I was like, the more unbelievable it sounds sometimes, the more likely it is to apply to people with disabilities. So we will never lack for work in the disability world, but I am proud that we have been able to do some good work, and we have good work on the horizon too. So
Yeah, and we're so glad to have the folks at the National Down Syndrome Congress keeping us all updated with all of the things that do go on that we said, is that really what's happening? And it's so wonderful to have a voice that knows exactly what's going on. And for that, it's very helpful to have Heather Sachs also on this podcast today. Heather, tell our audience who you are and what drew you to this work and what you do and all those fun things.
Thank you so much,
Yeah.
Kishore. So my name is Heather Sachs, and I'm the co-director of policy and advocacy, along with Stephanie Smith Lee. I also am a family member. My daughter Leah was born 21 years ago with Down syndrome, and like Jawanda, she was my entree into this community. I started off doing a lot of just volunteer advocacy work on the state level in Maryland, and it just snowballed and became a career for me. So I love policy. I'm kind of a policy geek and could, talk about it till I'm blue in the face. But, absolutely love working with our NDSC policy team. Everyone is so, well informed and professional.
I love it. I love it. And one of the things that in all the years of doing this podcast, there's usually every year or two, I would say, oh, we should have someone on to talk about some things going on from a policy perspective. And it just seems like these last several years, it's just there's so much happening all the time, and we've been doing a lot of these kinds of update podcasts, whether with one of you all or with Stephanie Smith Lee, and my goodness, Heather, can you get us? There's been a lot that's going on recently. Give us a little bit of an update of what are some important topics we should be aware of right now going on in this country.
Yes. And I know what you're saying with, trying to keep up with everything. We
Yeah.
analogize it to, someone that's trying to stick their hand in a, hole in a wall in a dam. And, when you cover up one hole, a bunch of other holes,
Yeah.
come out. And that's really what we're trying to do, to catch up and play defense as much as possible. It has been a really rough month for the disability community.
Mhm.
There have just been several different policy-oriented things that have come down at the same time that are very, very concerning to us. I would say the three major issues that we're dealing with right now, and they're all interrelated, are changes involving the Department of Education and Disability Civil Rights Enforcement, a DOJ, that's Department of Justice legal opinion that recently came down that questions decades of community integration policy under what's known as the Olmstead case, and major Medicaid changes that could affect home and community based services, HCBS. And, they all kind of relate to whether or not people with Down syndrome are going to continue to have both, rights and also the supports they need to live, learn, work, and thrive in their communities. So, if you don't mind, I would love to,
Yeah.
just a couple
Please.
minutes to talk about each issue. The first is the Department of Education changes. And what happened was the administration has entered into interagency agreements, IAAs, that transfer significant responsibilities from the Department of Education to other agencies. You may recall that, when the administration started, President Trump said one of his goals was to dismantle the Department of Education. And unfortunately, they have been doing just that. And this latest really, really, is very detrimental. So basically, they're trying to shift functions performed by the Office of Special Education and Rehabilitative Services, OSERS, a lot of acronyms here,
Hmm.
to HHS, the Department of Health and Human Services. And then they're also transferring the responsibilities for the Office of Civil Rights to the Department of Justice. And these changes are occurring administratively, which we never expected and which we question the legality of, rather than through legislation passed by Congress. And, families should care about this because OSERS oversees IDEA, the Individuals for Disabilities Education Act, which is the federal special education law. And the Office of Civil Rights investigates disability discrimination complaints in schools. Both of those offices have decades of experience serving students with disabilities and their families. We're particularly concerned about the proposed OSER's move to HHS because students with Down syndrome are students first, not patients. And you might have heard us talking about, danger that they're going to be viewed through a medical model. And, splitting responsibilities across these agencies really risks confusion and reduced accountability as well. And this is coming on the heels of significant staffing reductions at the Department of Education, where many experienced career staff have left or been reassigned. So they're moving the responsibilities on paper, but you can't instantly replace decades of expertise. So NDSC, along with many, many other organizations in the disability community that have expressed, similar concerns regarding these proposed moves, have banded together. We are trying to get Congress to reject these efforts to dismantle the Department of Education and move these core education and civil rights functions elsewhere. And we did hear recently that Senators Cassidy and Kaine have agreed to hold a vote in July on, whether or not this will move, which we do see as a very positive step. But let's see where they vote to move them to, because unfortunately, in the past, Senator Cassidy has, said that he could see education functions going to the Department of Labor. We don't feel that that's right either. The education department has existed for, 50 years or so, and everything needs to be housed under one umbrella with that. So if you want, I can go into, the next couple things.
I think if Adrian wants to comment, yeah, Adrian, you look
Yeah.
like you have something you wanted to say about this topic. Go ahead.
Mhm. When I was a kid in elementary school, um, I was not segregated in classrooms. I was actually matriculated into general classrooms, and and it was a success. My peers without Down syndrome were like my support people to go to. Like if I needed help, I can ask one of my classmates saying I need some help. They'll help me, and I even won a second prize on my science fair.
Wow.
The person who was the special education coordinator knew that I can do it.
That's amazing, Adrian. And I think, you were talking about sometimes you needed to ask for help, but I can tell you, you probably taught them even more than they could have possibly helped you with, because that's really amazing. So thanks for sharing that, Adrian. Yeah.
Yeah, and that brings up, the one of the additional problems with the Department of Education proposed moves is that they've already done an interagency agreement to move the office that oversees general education to the Department of Labor. So essentially now they're segregating special education, separating it in a totally different agency than general education. And as everyone knows or should know, special education students are general education students first. And these offices should be housed together and working together for all students. But what's happened in the last couple weeks has really been a gut punch. The Department of Justice released a legal opinion, a memo, about a week ago, questioning long-standing interpretations of the Americans with Disabilities Act integration mandate. And what that is the Olmstead Supreme Court case, which is essentially the Brown versus Board of Education for the disability community, said that people with disabilities have a right to receive services in the most integrated setting appropriate. And this has been law for, 25 years or
Mhm.
so. And this colors how federal agencies enforce the law and tends toward integration rather than segregation. Unfortunately, this legal opinion basically says we don't think Olmstead is correct, and sets the stage for the federal government to be able to segregate people with disabilities. And the most concerning thing about that memo is, we feel that it's really laying the path toward institutionalization again.
Mm.
And we've fought for decades, trying to get people out of institutions and into the community. So that's very, very concerning. It doesn't change the law. The Americans with Disability Act is still law, just like the Department of Education move does not change IDEA. The laws are still there, but it's very, very difficult when you have different interpretations of the law now. And people are very nervous about it. And this all kind of comes to a head at the time when, there's major changes going on with the Medicaid system. I think I was on your podcast about a year
Hmm.
ago when HR1, what some people call the big beautiful bill, had passed. Well, HR1 is in effect. That's going to make about $1 trillion of cuts to the Medicaid system over the next 10 years. And folks don't realize that Medicaid is much more than health insurance for people with Down syndrome. It pays for those home and community-based services like residential supports, employment services, personal care, etc. And, with these changes, unfortunately, we're already seeing it cutting funding for HCBS, home and community-based services. We're also seeing this fraud narrative going on. And, fraud absolutely should be addressed. But unfortunately, it's become very politicized. And people with disabilities are getting swept up in this. We should not have a few bad actors as a reason to undermine services for millions of people. The Center for Medicaid and Medicare Services is enforcing this very, very strongly and holding back funds for a lot of states while they go through these fraud investigations, which is a problem because those funds would go to providers to provide services for our folks. Home and community-based services are really on the chopping block now as well. So we kind of have all of these things coming together. And as I said, it feels like just sort of constant attacks the disability community has spent decades moving away from institutionalization and toward inclusion and community living and self-determination. Under this administration, it's really jeopardizing a lot of this progress.
Yeah, and it's so sad because I mean I know that there are people right there on the policy and advocacy team right there in NDSC who fought so hard for so many of these things that you were just mentioning, and just how quickly, unfortunately, how quickly these things are being dismantled without really seeking the advice of experts who were saying all along this is not the thing to do, and it's really challenging, and it doesn't matter which side of the aisle you're on, it's going to be challenging for people with Down syndrome as these things move forward. I wanted to give our audience, because sometimes, boy, I read through these news articles, I hear what you just shared, and I'm thinking, what's the hope? What can I do? How could I possibly impact this big machine that's moving and dismantling all these things? And I know that there's a big event coming up, the NDSC Policy Summit and Hill Day. I was hoping you guys could give us a little bit of an idea of what that is. Jawanda, do you want to share a little bit about what the day is, or Heather or Adrian? I'm not sure.
Well, I can, but let's let Adrian
Yeah,
start.
sure.
He's been working on this. He actually did a video with another of our colleagues, Micah, just kind of there on the hill and at the hotel, and it was really good. And so I think we should let Adrian start.
I love it. Adrian, fellow podcaster, I learned today that you have your own podcast, so
Mhm.
feel free to share about that too, but also about what's going on, what this day is going to be.
So, the Down Syndrome Policy Summit is hosted by NDSC the 29th and 30th of September. It's going to be at the Shoreham Hotel and on Capitol Hill. It's a 2-day event. The first day is actually going to be more about what are the policies that NDSC is oppositioning for. Um, the the skill building for day number two. Day number two is when we go to Capitol Hill to meet with elected officials. One powerful tool to speak to elected officials is to share your stories,
Hmm.
your live behind stories. I can't stress that enough. It's like the heart of everything.
And one of the things that Adrian is going to be doing at convention is something that him or someone else will be doing at our policy summit. And that is, we'll be teaching the people who come how to tell their stories.
Hmm.
And we'll be doing some pre-training, and we do something called one-pagers, and Adrian has a great one-pager. And we encourage everyone to have a one-pager that tells some fun things about them and things about their lives, but also that talk about an ask that you can attach to a policy. Anytime we go and meet with legislators, we want to be sure that we ask them for something and that we thank them, very important. But we always want to have an ask. And Adrian has a great ask in his model that he's going to be sharing with everyone. And we'll be doing something similar to that when we go to the Hill.
The most recent ask we're asking for is not to eliminate SSI or SSDI services. I think that people with disabilities who are working, we have like job. So I'm under self-directed services, and self-directed services, I get to pay job coaches that would support me in my jobs. And without them, I don't know how successful I could be. I mean, I'm working with NDSC because of them, because of the job coaches. I also pay for my transportation so I can be integrated in the community with my brother and his friends, and we do what our age would do. And this bill will also help me with my goal because I want to get married. I want to have kids. And I want to make sure that the payments that I make in my jobs don't decrease, but maybe increase.
I think you're talking about the SSI Savings Penalty Elimination Act that would raise the asset limitation, right?
Yes, that's right.
From $2,000 to $10,000 per person. And it would also eliminate the marriage penalty because right now, if two people on SSI, Supplemental Security Insurance income, get married, their payments go down by a third, the amount of money that they receive from the Social Security Administration, and they can also save less money in their bank accounts. And so that is definitely one of the bills that our policy team has been advocating for. It's actually a very bipartisan bill. So if I were to sort of guess of, any of the things we're looking at advancing in this Congress, that would get my vote just because it's so bipartisan. There's a lot of problems with the Social Security system. We know that. This only addresses one problem, the asset limitation. Adrian talked a little bit about the income limitations. Those are problematic as well, and will be addressed in different legislation. But yes, that's definitely one of the issues, and that will probably be one of our asks at the summit. And the summit will be very substantive. It's not, it's going to give you the tools to advocate and share your story with your elected officials. But we're also having policy breakout sessions in the afternoon. And we're actually offering these breakouts in both a deep dive format for people that are very familiar, with the particular issue, and in a plain language format for folks that are just starting off. So we're really excited about that. We've been lining up all of our speakers. We have a lot of community experts coming. We have some Hill staff coming to talk to us. And I think it's going to be a great day. The first day is going to be a great day of learning and sharing knowledge.
I just want to point out that all of NDSC bills are always bipartisan.
We really try to work to support things that are bipartisan because we know it's very difficult to get anything passed if it's not bipartisan.
Mm-hmm.
So we say we support policies, not politics or parties. But we all know that Kishore, I'm assuming that you've been to the Hill before, to
Yes.
Capitol Hill.
Uh-huh.
Well, so the four of us are very fortunate people. We have been to the Hill, to the United States Capitol, and we are very blessed in this country to be able to do that because there are many countries around the world you can't do that. And we are all doom and gloom sometimes about what's going on, but we still have the right to go to Capitol Hill where the people we have elected, the people who work for us, where they are making laws and working on things that are going to impact our lives. And specifically, we're talking about people with Down syndrome or disabilities. But there's nothing like going to the Hill. And anytime you get a chance to be able to do that, every American, it's my wish that every American could go and meet with their elected officials. Just being there where all this history is, number one, is just so impactful. And then there's you can write your elected officials, you can tweet at them, you can tag them on Facebook or do a TikTok for them, and you can go to their home offices, their district offices, you can have Zoom calls. We do all of those things. But there is nothing that takes the place of meeting with them in person, meeting with their staff, having them hear what is important to you and what impacts you. Tell your story. I think that's a theme we have, is telling your story. And that's what we're going to be doing. And we hope we have people from all over the country that will come and go to the Hill with us. We're going to help them make their appointments. They don't even have to make their appointments with their elected officials. We're going to do that. So we're going to train them. We're going to take them up there. We have an opportunity where people can do fundraising. I call it peer-to-peer fundraising. We have an opportunity if someone wants to raise money to support themselves. Some of that goes back to NDSC, but they can use that to help make their trip more affordable because we know and understand not everyone has the ability to do this, and we think that would be a great way to help them. I'm very passionate about stories and about visiting with legislators because I've seen it in a lot of people, but I've seen it in my own life. I have my daughter Rachel is like Adrian. She's an exceptional little self-advocate in her own right. And when I go visit my offices, they don't really care if I'm there. They really just want to know if Rachel's there. And Heather's been with me, and so is Adrian. That's true. I'm not making that up. But I have seen how our voices have made an impact. We helped pass the ABLE Act. We've helped pass a number of things here in the state of Kansas that have been very impactful. And it's that one voice. And those legislators and their staff members tell us over and over again that personal connection is what makes the difference. So we want to encourage people, and maybe this time is the perfect time to do this because people feel a little less hope right now, I think. Maybe this is the exact time to do this, to go and meet with these people and go home with hope that you can make a difference.
So, Jawanda, just remind us again the days of this and how they sign up and kind of some of those nitty-gritty details.
Nitty-gritty details. You can go to our website, ndsccenter.org, and there's a section on policy and advocacy. You can click on that. The first thing you're going to find there is about our policy summit. And you can find everything you need to know, registration information, FAQs. We have some Spanish translated materials. You can find the information about the fundraising, schedule at a glance, all those things. It is September 29th and 30th. It has a low registration fee. It's at our first day. Well, our hotel is the Omni Shoreham Hotel in Washington, D.C., and we'll be doing all of our training and everything there. We expect people will be coming in on Monday, which I believe is the 28th of September, and we then be there to get started first thing. We'll start early Tuesday morning with our training. We're going to have, as Heather said, some great people coming in, agency leaders, leading self-advocates in the community, experts, some of our NDAC members. And you'll have to let me tell what NDAC is in a minute, Kishore. But anyhow,
I'm in it. Come on.
He is. He's a member. Yeah. It'll be a great time. We will go to the Hill and we will have a congressional breakfast where we hope our advocates will be inviting their legislators and they will come to the congressional breakfast, spend our day going to meetings. We won't make anybody go alone, so don't be afraid. There's nothing to be afraid of. There's a lot of us that have been before, and we're going to help everybody, and we want everybody to feel comfortable. But it'll be a great opportunity to participate in this this democracy that we live in.
I love it. This is really for anybody, seasoned veterans and rookies.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
We really, really want self-advocates. We so strongly believe that their voices are so important. And Adrian Adrian has this lived experience. Adrian knows what he wants. And Kishore, because you work with the self-advocates at NDSC, they have a lot to say about what they want. And it may not be what we think they want sometimes. So it's important.
I love it.
I wanted to point out 2 points of views. It's essential for people with Down syndrome to go to meet our elected officials, or anyone to meet the elected officials. We want them to be held accountable to make our lives meaningful and impactful. We also want to make sure that we provide opportunities for self-advocates for the trainings that they will need to go to Capitol Hill, so they can also write their stories too.
Thank
One
you,
quick thing, Kishore.
Yes, please.
We will have pre-trainings. So we're going to have some pre-trainings that will be recorded and sent to anyone who's going to participate. So they will have some information before they go and some preparation before they go, in addition to what we're doing with them there. So we're not just going to throw everybody out and say, go do this. We're gonna help them with their efforts. So
I have no doubt. Well, wow, what a great podcast. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you felt like we should cover today before we close the podcast?
I would just encourage all of your listeners to join the National Down Syndrome Advocacy Coalition, NDAC, if they haven't already. That's NDSC's grassroots, grassroots force, really, of folks across the country. They'll get policy updates. We have quarterly update calls. We have a private Facebook group. I think that is a great way for folks to get involved, respond to our action alerts when we, send something out where we need you to call your elected officials and we provide talking points. We're sending that for a reason, because we need those phones to be ringing off the hook on a particular issue. So please respond to our action alerts. And please consider coming to the NDSC Policy Summit. I've worked with the NDSC Policy Team for many, many years. There is no better team that is going to be able to teach you how to advocate and teach you all about the issues than we are.
I agree. I agree. Adriana, before we close the podcast, I told you I wanted to hear what was the name of your podcast that you do? Tell me the title of that one.
It is called Exceeding Expectations.
Exceeding Expectations?
Yes.
Love it. Okay. I'm going to put a link to that. I'm going to put a link to the NDAC website and the website for the summit as well in the show notes. So if you're looking for that, listeners, that's where you'll find it. But I want to thank all three of you for joining me on this podcast today. What a wonderful thing that this summit is going to be. I know, as you've all said, the voices of our friends with Down syndrome are going to be the things that really carry the day, and I'm so excited to hear what the outcome is from all of that. So
I just want to say that people with Down syndrome are the heart of what we do.
Oh yeah, thank you. That's a great reminder. Yes, definitely. Well, to our listeners, if there are any topics that you would like us to cover on this podcast, please do reach out to me at Down Syndrome Center at chp.edu. And if you'd like to partner with us in the work that we do at the center, including this podcast, please go to givetochildrens.org/Down Syndrome. But until next time, bye-bye.